It's only been 7 months since 28 Years Later hit the big screen, but its sequel, The Bone Temple, is already here. It picks up right where we left off in post-apocalyptic Britain, so let's check in and see what's going to happen with Spike and his new, colourful group of friends. Welcome everyone to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Tim.
Actually, I think your name is Jimmy.
This is a horror movie podcast. We get together to talk about movies. It's that simple. And today we are talking about 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, the second in the 28 Years trilogy, but the fourth in the 28 Days Later saga. So that's what we're going to do. We'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get the spoilers. And if you're enjoying the show, please do hit the like button on YouTube. It helps out a bunch if you do. You can also support us over on Patreon and all that good stuff. But I'll tell you more about that and all the bonuses you can get at the end of the episode. So, yeah, I don't know how I felt going into this, to be honest, Tim. Because I was a bit more lukewarm on 28 Years Later, which wasn't even a year ago. When did that come out? Like March, April last year?
I was thinking it was maybe a bit more summer-ish, but maybe it was.
Yeah, maybe it was
spring. I'm not sure.
It wasn't as early.
It wasn't long.
Yeah, but it wasn't as early as January though, because I was definitely thinking that as it was starting. I was like, this has not even been a year since we got that last movie, so it feels weird almost to already have another one. But yeah, I obviously I said spoiler free to begin with, and it will be spoiler free for this movie. I think it's almost impossible to talk about anything here, you know, and not spoil the last one. So if you haven't seen 28 Years Later, I guess I'll just give a spoiler warning for that, because this one picks up right after it. Like, it just starts off from where that ended, pretty much. So, like, it's impossible to talk around that. So if you haven't seen that one, I would definitely recommend jumping, if you care about spoilers, that is. But, yeah. I mean, how excited were you? What was your gauge at?
I'm sure we probably talked about this on our preview episode where we went through the upcoming movies, but which I believe is on Patreon. If you're not on that, was a big beefy episode where we discuss everything coming out this year, or at least the notable ones. But yeah, I would say this it's kind of weird because it was one of the ones I was more hyped for, but it was also kind of like a big question mark because we were a little different, where I actually really liked 28 Years Later, and I rewatched it with my wife before we went and saw this new one, and it still held up for me. If anything, I might have even liked it slightly more. So I was really excited to see where the story was going, but it was also a big question mark because, it was a different director. Nia DaCosta is doing this one as opposed to Danny Boyle. And I'm not like super familiar with her work. Like I believe she did the last Candyman movie.
Yeah, she also did the Marvels. If you were keeping up with Marvel movies.
Oh right, yeah. I mean, that was fine. I think some people really didn't like it, but I don't think it's bad. But it is just kind of like typical MCU stuff, like kind of down the middle. It's not horrible, but I guess kind of similar like to that Candyman reboot. I don't even remember if it was like a reboot or kind of like a legacy sequel thing or whatever. But I remember like it being okay and having some interesting things, but not like completely wowing me. So it was. If anything, I guess I was like intrigued to see, if this was going to feel like, completely different or kind of separated from the first one, or if it would just kind of be like a smooth transition, into this one. So I was excited, but I was also not like nervous, but I guess just kind of questioning, what it was going to be like.
Yeah, I feel like kind of. I don't even. As soon as they said this was going to be some kind of trilogy, and not just one, sequel years later, it was like, okay, what have you got planned? What's going on here? And obviously, the ending of the last one introduced the Jimmies, which were obviously going to be a bigger feature of this one. But I think I wasn't sure what I was expecting of them, because they, that's how the movie started last time. Like the start of 28 Years Later was actually kind of it was like a prologue teasing what will become the Jimmies, and then they showed up at the end. which made it feel like, oh, they're going to be this character who's leading this cult effectively.
Yeah.
Is going to be like a really big deal. So I was like, oh, what's this going to be then going into it? And I think one of the feelings I had watching this, and even to an extent the last one, but this one more so, is like how as it keeps going, it seems to be sort of be drifting away from just being a zombie movie, effectively, where they're almost an afterthought at a certain point in this. Other than one notable exception, but even that plotline kind of goes in directions that kind of take it out of typical zombie terms. But it's just kind of an interesting concoction, I suppose. I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll just get into the impressions and see how we feel. But it's a strange beast, this new trilogy, and it's kind of funny that we got these two so close together, because the third one's not been filmed yet. The third one's going to be at least 2 years away, based on just the fact that they've not done it yet.
And I believe Danny Boyle's coming back for that one.
I believe so. I think my theory when we talked about the first one, and I probably stick by it, is that they didn't want the actor Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, to grow up too much before this one, because it's meant to take place right after. So they got another director to come in and just do it immediately. Whereas maybe it's okay, there's a time jump to the next one. Maybe it's fine that he's going to look 20 when they get to the next one. I don't know. Right. But with all that said, though, Tim, how did you feel about the Bone Temple?
I liked it a lot. I don't think I liked it as much as the last one, but I do think it feels aligned with it. But there's there's definitely some differences. Like I do think the last one was very stylized, and I think this one's like a little less like reliant on style, but it does still have like its own like flourishes and some really cool sequences and stuff. I think there's some like pretty killer performances. Ralph Fiennes, or is it Fiennes or Fiennes?
It's Rafe Fiennes. Rafe Fiennes. I don't like. It looks like Ralph. I said Ralph for years before I finally learned that it was Rafe, but it's Rafe Fiennes.
That does sound familiar, but but I mean he gives like a great performance. I think they're doing some interesting stuff like with him and Samson. I think Jimmy is a very compelling villain, and there's a lot of interesting stuff where that goes. If I do have one kind of complaint, which I mean we can get a lot more into it in spoilers, but I guess I'll just kind of say that I was expecting Alfie Williams' character Spike to kind of be more of a focus, and he's a bit more passive in this than I would have assumed, going like basically where the last one ends up in everything. Yeah,
he's very sidelined. Even he's around, but he's very sidelined, and it feels especially weird because the whole end of the last movie was he wants to take the initiative and go on his own journey to sort of discover who he is, and it just kind of feels weird that he's so like just reacting to things this entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah, like again, we can't get too into it, but there's like a lot of times in the movies where I'm just kind of like, oh, why is this character not, basically just like leaving or running away? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, we'll get into that more. But I wouldn't say that affected my enjoyment of it. Like I still had a fun time. I don't know if it's just maybe I just like exploring this world because, like you're saying, yeah, this one definitely seems like less focused on the zombies and stuff, but I didn't necessarily care because I just found the other stuff interesting and compelling, and again I'm excited to see where it goes. So yeah, I think for me it's maybe just like a smidge of a drop off from the last one, but I'm still pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I have no idea how to feel about this movie. Because I think it's fairly well directed, although, like you said, it doesn't have quite the same amount of like, because the last one had like that weird thing where you'd hear like the counting, and there'd be like the weird editing style would come in, or there'd be a lot of these weird little flourishes. This one has less weird flourishes. It's very solid directed, but for the most part, it's a little bit more straightforward. Although it's still very stylized in a lot of its shots. It's just not as stylized as some of the more, like, I guess, gimmicky things that the last one was doing, so it sticks out less.
Like remember the last one had those like kill shots where they would like kill a zombie, and then it would show like the different angles and the freeze frames. And
That's
stuff.
right. Yeah, and there was a lot of like chest cam stuff of like running and things like that. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. But I like this sounds like such a weird thing to say, but like I had just such a feeling of this, like sitting down to watch this movie and kind of waiting for it to be like, okay, what is this movie? What are we doing here? Because I really didn't know going in what it was, and I was like, okay, waiting for it to kick in and be like, okay, that's what this movie's really about. That's what the point of this movie is, and it is such a sequel in like a really specific way, where it's just kind of continuing a couple of characters from the last movie that I don't know. I never felt like it really staked its own claim to be like, it really does feel like the middle chapter in something that was pre-planned for better or worse, where it never really feels like its own thing. But at the same time, it does also feel kind of episodic in that there's elements of this movie that are just kind of done by the end of it, where it's like, oh, we're kind of starting with a relatively fresh slate again, getting into the third one, which I was surprised by as well. But I remember like just sitting going like, oh, expecting the kind of the moment in Act 1 of being like, that's what this movie's going to be. That's what this movie's going to be. And then realizing at a certain point, oh, I think I'm like 2/3 to this movie, and I still don't quite feel like I've hit that. I still feel like I'm doing catch up with characters from the last one. It's a strange thing, and it is just a me thing more than anything. But I never felt like I got out of that gear. And before I knew it, oh, we're in the third act and we're wrapping up. This is the climax, and I don't feel like I've ever like started really getting into a story at any point.
I wonder if you're just, I mean, I wonder if part of it is if you're just not like super invested in this world. Like,
I think that's part of it. Especially since the most interesting thing about this world in the last one to me was this idea that the rest of the world was normal and has been continuing, and it's still 2025, 2026 or whatever. Probably later actually, because it's probably 2030 actually, given when 28 days later took place. But
sure.
But I mean, there's nothing in this movie really even references that really. So
no, not at all.
it's just not it's a non-factor. It feels like a very small movie in scope in a weird way. Like it's got the Jimmies, which it introduced at the end of the last one, and then the movie entirely focuses around that, and then another character from the last one. Like everything focuses around that. There's no making the world bigger. Whereas the last one, it felt like, for as much as I didn't really like the Jimmy's reveal at the end, it was like, okay, they're doing something new and weird here, I guess, and they established all this new stuff about this town where the tide goes down so they can go across, and the tide goes back up, and that's their sort of natural protection from any zombies on the island, and so on and so on. Like, it felt like it was doing a lot of world building, and then here it feels like all that's like gone, and it's like really, it feels like if this was a TV show, and I guess that's how I feel about it. It feels like an episode of a TV show that's focusing in on this particular thing, which is the Jimmies and what Ray Fiennes is up to, and then it never kind of got out of that gear where I felt like, oh, that's the point of this middle chapter of the movie. I don't know. So I guess I'm still lukewarm. I guess I don't think it's bad, but I also never really felt like I got that invested in it either. So,
I mean, that's I mean that's fine. Like, obviously not. Everything has to be for you. I do like kind of agree. Like, it almost feels like less of a number 2, more like 1.5.
I mean, that's maybe a good way of putting it. Yeah. That's a probably good way of putting it. And then on a slightly more personal level, I do think Jack O'Connell, who's playing the main Jimmy, right? He's Sir Jimmy Crystal. His Scottish accent is a bit wavering at times. Whenever he has to like get emotional or angry or yell or anything, it completely goes off the rails. And it's not even like it goes off the rails, like, because now sometimes when people are doing an accent, they'll slip into the real accent. Like the real voice will come through. He's not doing that. Like, I'm not hearing his English come through. It's more like when you try and do another accent and it just ends up sounding like this weird like voice that no one says.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. I was getting that occasionally from him. And the fact that one or two of his gang are also Scottish, and they do have it like sounds like a Scottish actor playing that part. It's like that's really authentic, and then he's like kind of wavering in and out. So that's like a minor quibble in the grand scheme of things. But hey, it is kind of weird, but in a theater with presumably all other Scottish people, and I just like part of me just wanted to like yell out, "Hey, is anyone else having a problem with his accent?" Because I assume everyone in the room's thinking the same thing, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really notice it, but I mean, obviously, I'm not an expert or anything.
of course you didn't, you heathen. Yeah. I mean, how did you find? I mean, I suppose I could ask this in the last one as well, but like, we've got Scottish accents here, we've got thick English accents, and a variety of in between. Like, how were the voices in general? Like, did you feel like you were missing subtitles or what? What was going on?
No, I mean, I thought it was totally fine. I mean, maybe that could be something with like, if there are people that don't engage in that stuff, but I feel like I'm usually okay. I watch like, a fair amount of like, like weird like comedy, stuff from the UK or whatever that I'm like pretty used to accents. But I mean, I didn't feel like anything was like, fairly aggressive or that in this. But yeah, I mean, I can see maybe like someone in, the middle of Nebraska or something that like only watches 2.5 Men that maybe like they're like confused or something by this. But
yeah, I laughed at the start when it came up saying, because we always get the BBFC thing at the start and it'll come up saying 15, 18, whatever, so this is an 18, and it always gives a little bit of detail. It'll say it's an 18 because of strong violence, gore, drug use, whatever, and this one it said violence, strong gory detail, and then at the end it said and very strong language. And very strong language means one thing. It means there's going to be C-bombs. Because if it just said strong language, that would just be F-bombs.
Yeah.
But actually, I don't know. Maybe racial slurs. Maybe that would get it very strong as well. I never really thought about it. But in terms of regular swear words, but yeah, there's a bunch of C-bombs in this. There's the post-apocalypse, and there's angry British people, so that's just the way it goes. Like, I mean, I'll say this, like, it didn't drag, like, it felt like the pacing was solid enough. It felt kind of like, to me, where I kept expecting it to kind of reveal its hand of what the bigger purpose of this movie was, and in a lot of ways the trajectory goes backwards, just in a sheer geographical perspective, because it's kind of about the group of characters going back the way to where we were in the first movie to some extent. And I kind of feel like, oh, so we've not actually, again, first movie ended with Spike being like, oh, I'm going to go travel the island, I'm going to go and do my own adventure, and then in this one he's passive. He kind of just is scared a lot of the time and ends up retreating to a place he's already been. And I don't know, I don't know, that felt a bit weird to me from a momentum perspective.
No, I mean, I totally agree with that. And yeah, like, I do think the first one feels like, more of a complete movie. Like, it does have a little, cliffhanger thing at the end, but like, there's a journey there in the first one. Yeah, this one is kind of interesting because presumably, like, Spike is kind of like the main character, but yeah, it doesn't really feel, like you just said, like he actually goes on a journey or has like much growth or anything. So I totally get from like a storytelling perspective that it just kind of feels like, I don't know, not that they're like wasting time or whatever, but I guess just like not much I guess happens in terms of like moving this character's story forward. But for me, as someone that I was just really feeling enamored with this world, like I'm just kind of happy to spend time in it, and like I'm liking these characters and stuff that I can definitely see the flaws, but it doesn't really bother me that that much. Like, I still enjoy it.
I mean, I think the argument is probably that Ralph Fiennes' character is the one who has the journey. Not a physical journey, he doesn't travel anywhere, but like he's the one with the story and the arc potentially in this movie, which I can see the argument for that, and I'm definitely not mad that they developed him more, but like it's just weird because it feels like Spike was the protagonist of the trilogy, and I guess that maybe isn't as true anymore, but they still keep him around because we've got more to do with him next time, I assume.
Yeah. Actually, that's funny. I forgot I was going to ask you, like, who you would consider the main character of this to be. I guess it would be him. Like, it's, like, if anything, I guess maybe you could say that it's kind of split between him and Jimmy, but I'd still probably say it's maybe a bit more favored towards him.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, though, because even when you're with Jimmy, though, you're kind of still, like from Spike's perspective, because he's the character we know, and he's the good one, because they're kind of a bunch of psychopaths. So you've got that going. But yeah. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a couple of memorable, like, weird bits where I'm like, oh, this is really weird what it's doing here, and I kind of appreciate that it's doing a weird thing. But at the same time, it's like the weird thing that it's doing is kind of taking it like far removed from being a zombie movie or even a horror movie at a certain point, where it's kind of like like if you just called this movie more of like a thriller, I really can argue, to be honest, given that it's more about the tension of like, you know, what these human villains are going to do. And not that you can't have human villains in a horror movie, you absolutely can.
Right.
But it's a bit more, you know, it's less like, oh, we've got a stalker who's like going to kill people, and a bit more, oh, he's been kind of forced to stick with this group and like they're crazy and they're going to make him do bad things. So it's the tension's very different.
Right.
Where we're kind of like, it's almost more something like a plot I'd expect in a post-apocalyptic sci-fi movie than a zombie movie in particular. I guess there's some overlap there naturally, but yeah, that's how I'd describe it. So yeah, as far as anything else spoiler-free you want to mention? You mentioned performances. I mean, I certainly don't have a problem with that. I mean, obviously Ray Fiennes is good. I don't think the actor playing Spike gets as much to do in this one, so I can't really say that he sticks out, because in the last one he really carried the movie in a lot of ways, and impressively so.
Yeah, I mean, I think he still does a good job, but it's like he's still a good performer, but his character just doesn't get as much to do. I thought, you know, for the most part the Jimmies were, you know, okay. There's a couple of them that kind of like just bleed together, but there was like a few that, you know, weren't memorable. It's like, okay, you have the one that seems to have a bit more of a conscience, and then the one that's kind of like the crazy wild card and stuff, and yeah, they're all fine.
I mean, I guess we'll mention Samson and the actor playing Samson. He must have been very cold. But if you don't remember who Samson was in the last one, Samson's the alpha zombie that's running around near where Ray Fiennes is, with his dong out the entire time. So you can look forward to that if you missed that. Hell, it's not even the only dong you get in the movie. If you're watching a movie with dong, you got a couple of dongs in this one. So yeah, look forward to that. But yeah, I think we'll get into spoilers then, so we can start talking about it. So spoilers for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, You've Been Warned. Spoilers from this moment forth. So, where would you like to begin, Tim?
We could just start right at the beginning. I don't think there was it just opens with them at in the water park, right? They're about to do the fight to the death. There wasn't anything before that, right?
Yeah, I think it's just a swimming pool rather than a park, but yeah.
Well, they showed an outside thing with they said something water park.
Oh, did it? Okay, I never noticed that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a swimming pool, but yeah, fair enough. I remember an ice cream van sitting there.
Right.
Or ice cream truck for the Americans, I suppose.
Yeah. So we don't really know anything. We spent a lot of the when we did the review for the last movie just talking about the bonkers ending of it, where these just Jimmies come out of nowhere and they're doing like these crazy martial arts moves and all this stuff. And so I guess the big thing with this movie is we, you know, find out exactly, I guess, how they operate and stuff. And
can I just jump in there and say, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of that parkour stuff this time, was there? Like, they kind of made a big deal about that at the end of the last one, and then this time it's like, I mean, some of them are good fighters, but they're not necessarily doing a lot of flashy things. It's more just typical.
There was one or two instances where I forget which character it was. I think maybe the I guess kind of the main one, Kelly or Jimmy Inc. I think I think it was her.
Was it Kelly or was it Julie? Her name was, but when we found out her real name.
I thought at the end she said Kelly, but
it may have been Kelly. I don't know. Yeah. Honestly, I was thinking this as I was watching. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be a nightmare talking about all these Jimmies. They all have the exact same name. Now, technically, like in the cast list, she's Jimmy Inc. And there's like a Jimmy Snake, a Jimmy Jones, a Jimmy Shite, and then Jimmy Crystal's the main one. But you never hear these last names that much in the movie. They're all just saying Jimmy, 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 Jimmy this, Jimmy that, Jimmy, Jimmy. And the fact that there's one called Jimmy, Jimmy, literally, is just two Jimmys. It just makes it more confusing. But yes, continue with your thought then.
Oh yeah, there was like one. I'm pretty sure it was her where like she was like walking away or something, and like a zombie was just walking by, and she does this kind of like flip and then like a neck slash kind of thing, and I thought that was like the closest it got to feeling like the end of the last movie where they're doing this crazy parkour stuff. But yeah, we kind of open with like they're in this abandoned swimming pool, and Spike kind of has to earn his way into the Jimmy gang by picking someone to. Well, it doesn't seem like when they start, like I didn't get the feeling that he had to pick someone, but later on we see like someone else has to pick. So I'm guessing he chose that person.
I don't. Well, I don't think he did, because I mean you're saying this is his initiation to like prove that he belongs in the Jimmy gang. I think it's important to make clear here, Tim. He did not ask to be in the gang, nor does he want to prove to be. He just wants to go away, right. And they're kind of bullying him, and they won't let him. And they're saying, either you like prove you're worthy to be in the gang by beating one of us, or we're just going to kill you. So it's very much like a a horrific scene of like them picking on this child. And then eventually this one asshole starts like teasing him and like sort of pick up the knife, like do this, and they're just mocking him. He gets pushed down, all the rest of it, and then eventually he's able to like Spike grabs the knife, he pantsies him, grabs the knife and just stabs him in the thigh, and the guy yells out and says, "Oh, I'm going to skin you, you wee shite," but he pulls out the knife and blood starts just spurting, and they all just kind of watch and laugh as they realize that's an artery he's just hit. So he just bleeds out and dies, and it's like, oh well, I guess Spike's in the gang because he got a lucky knife wound.
Yeah, it was kind of like it's pretty gnarly. Like I mean, I guess it wasn't that crazy. Like it was just like a lot of blood spurting out, but I don't know. Just whenever we're dealing with like veins and arteries, like I don't know, that's just something that kind of grosses me out a bit. But I did think that was kind of like a funny like. In a dark way of him. Like, I mean, getting into the gang.
They make him so unlikable for those like that 60 seconds before the stab happens. He is so unlikable that you're kind of like happy that he got stabbed like by the time it happens.
So I guess if in order to join the gang, you have to kill a Jimmy, and then you can become a Jimmy. I guess that's basically how it works.
You become one of Jimmy's fingers. That's what he calls his groupies. They're all the fingers of Jimmy.
Which the thing I didn't get though is that I think he said something about like having like 7 fingers or something like that.
Which I think he did have at the start of the movie, did he not?
I believe so, but I just thought, I don't know, to me it just seemed weird, like, oh, why not just have like 10, like, like, 5 for each hand or whatever. Like, I don't know, like 7 just seemed like a weird odd number. I don't know.
It feels like it's like a lot of cult stuff. Whatever fits what's happened to have like been convenient, right? So he's found enough to be 7. He's like, 7 fingers, even though that makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah. So do you just kind of want to stick with the Jimmy plot for a bit? And
I think so. It probably makes more sense to like take them from one side or the other, because we did cut away obviously to Ray Fiennes for a while at this after this scene, but when we come back, we actually get introduced to some side characters who are in the woods. They get attacked by zombies. One of them goes down, and 2 of them run back to their farmhouse where they've got like a family. They've got like a fence with barbed wire, so they've got like an okay little like safety zone that they've prepped up. But when they get to the house, the reveal is that the Jimmys are already at the house, and they've kind of like forced their way in, and they're making them serve them like dinner, and it's all very kind of like under duress. And it just kind of bubbles up as like we see kind of how crazy they are. Jimmy's making one of them
Teletubby stories.
Yeah, they're doing Teletubby reenactments, and he makes one of the because there's two female Jimmys. One's Jimmy Inc., who's the one who we get to know a lot more, and then the other one's Jemima, I think they call her, and she's the one who does the little Teletubby dance. And then basically this all like goes haywire though when like. Because basically this is where you get to see that Jimmy Crystal does a lot of talking, where he's kind of like, we're here enjoying the hospitality of these and these and blah, blah. But then he just like kind of casually at the end of everything, when he realizes that they're not buying the nice guy act, he's like, we're just going to leave once we're done. Of course, we'll have to kill you first. And then obviously some of them try to fight back, and and that's all leads to them being tied up in the barn, and like the Jimmy's torturing them and skinning them, I think, and they're making Spike watch, although Spike runs out and refuses to watch at a certain point. Like this is like a big chunk of their story in the first half of the movie.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised because I wasn't sure where they were going. Like I figured they'd obviously and I, before going into the movies or whatever, like I assume that they're gonna be bad guys, but I kind of thought they would maybe be more like like bullies, like they might go somewhere and take your supplies or whatever, but like they're like like pretty cold-blooded killers, and like for a specific reason too, like they're like basically worshiping Satan. I guess like the main Jimmy, like his deal is that he keeps referring to old Nick, and I guess he was kind of saying that like this whole apocalypse thing was like brought on by like the devil, like, so I guess they're kind of in service to him, which I mean I think it's kind of an interesting angle, and like it makes sense, like if all this crazy stuff is happening, like it makes sense for someone to be like, oh yeah, this must be the devil like unleashing hell upon earth or whatever. So
especially if this all started when he was like so young that he couldn't comprehend what the actual reasons were. That said though, at one point when he's saying some of this rhetoric, at a certain point where he's talking about, this is Satan's wrath coming down upon the world, like I really wanted like Spike, who knows this, to turn around and say, yeah, but it's not the world though, it's just here, it's literally just this island, the rest of the world is completely operating as fine.
I wonder, like, if many people know that, because, like, I wonder, like, the younger people that were born after this happened or whatever, like, if they even know, like, what's going on with the rest of the world or whatever.
I know you're absolutely right to say that, because, like, I think that's the point here, is that Jimmy wouldn't know that, and, like, his cult that he's built up around this idea that he can talk to Satan in his head, right, because he keeps talking to old Nick, he says, old Nick's giving me an order, this is what we're going to do. It makes sense they don't know that, but but obviously Spike knew this because we saw him learn. I mean, at least see evidence of it in the last movie, and I think people in his village probably still generally know that idea. They know about the patrols and the boats going around the island, and stuff like that. So I guess that's part of the frustration for me, is like that's like the only time it starts to like even butt up against this idea that it's just this island, and I really wanted someone to challenge Jimmy with the idea that no, it's just here that this is going on. This is not the entire world. The rest of the world's normal, and in the rest of the world, you'd be considered a raving lunatic and locked in a padded cell for the rest of your days.
Yeah. One of the really interesting, like, not to skip too far ahead, but I did think it was a really like cool, interesting bit when he finally meets up with Ray Fiennes' character. Is it Dr. Kelson? Is it?
Yeah, Ian, I think his first name was. Yeah.
Ian Kelson. Yeah, and I think it's really interesting once they kind of have that conversation, and then like they both kind of realize like, oh, like not a lot of people remember the world before this. Like Jimmy, I think he said he was only like 8 or so before this happened, but he's like, oh, I guess some memories of that, and then he kind of like asks Dr. Kelson like like, oh, like what do you remember about that, and kind of goes and talks about like, oh, like some of the feelings and stuff like he had before, and I don't know, I thought that was like a really interesting conversation between them.
Yeah. Just to sort of keep going through what the early stuff with the Jimmys though, one of the people in this group that they're attacking is a pregnant woman who does manage to run away at first. She comes back though, she sort of sticks around and ends up sort of like witnessing some of what they're doing in the barn and intervenes at a eventual point. So real quick, when they have like the family, minus the pregnant woman who's like hiding out and watching it, they have everyone like tied up, and one of the things they do is basically Jimmy pretends to talk to old Nick, and he says like, oh, like he wants to give them charity, which and this with them the charity is removing their shirts, which ends up being them like skinning their chests. But so I have a question about that. I'm not sure if you would know this, but I think it is a bit more like of a UK thing, like the whole like these guys modeling themselves after, was it Jimmy Savile? Is that the guy that they're kind of supposed to be referencing? Savile, not Seville.
Savile. Okay. Well, sorry, I don't know, but But like, is that a thing where like he would give people charity? Like, is that something that they also borrow from him? I wasn't sure.
Wait, I'm not sure. Like, do you mean did he skin people, or was he like someone who gave to charity in a sort of more literal sense?
Well, like he was like a television host or like TV personality or something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then like, was his thing like? Did he? Like, I don't know, did he have a reality show where like, we're gonna give people charity, and like obviously like he's not ripping people's skins off, but I don't know if like that was the thing where he would like, oh, we're gonna like give this person money or something,
I mean, to be honest, like I never really saw any of his stuff when I was young, and he was kind of mostly before my time. But like he did a lot of work with kids. I would, if I was to make a guess, I do think he did a lot of like public charity stuff. I think that was a big part of his shtick. But I wasn't necessarily connecting that with the like what they were doing here. Admittedly, I didn't really know why they were calling this charity, but maybe that's what they were taking it from.
Yeah, because there was two things that I kind of didn't understand. I kind of assumed that maybe they were references to him, and that was like, yeah, whenever they like, we're gonna give you charity, and then I think there would be points where after he would say something, he would say, "How's that?" I think, and I wasn't sure if like, oh, maybe that's something that guy
I think
said,
that may be a Jimmy Savile thing. Again, I literally somehow, happily in retrospect, never ever saw anything Jimmy Savile was ever in. So I really don't know. Yeah. But I agree, that thing where he says, "How's that?" and then they all go, "How's that?" in unison sounds like they're doing his catchphrase or something like that.
Okay. It's kind of funny though, because I also don't really know much about him, and it's like I kind of feel like I don't want to research it. Like I feel like that's not going to be a fun time learning about that stuff.
I mean, I would stick to the Wikipedia page and just never go any further than that. I mean, what you're going to read's still pretty horrific, but that's yeah. So they've got them tied up in the barn. They're doing this whole skinning thing. Spike runs outside. It's notable that Jimmy Inc. / Kelly is sort of scouted ahead and has seen through binoculars Ray Fiennes' character, so that's going to be important for later. But in the barn, it's like, hey, this one guy who we've not skinned yet, you can prove that you're worthy of being one of Jimmy's fingers. You pick one of us to fight. And he picks Jemima because in the room, because Spike's not there, in the room she's the one who seemingly looks the weakest, right? Because she's the smallest, she's this small woman versus these tougher looking guys. But of course, she takes offense to that, and turns out she's a complete sadistic little psychopath who is actually, at the time she dies, because eventually the pregnant woman who's hiding up in sort of the top of the barn, like, slides the hook in, which impales the back of her head. She's literally threatening to rip his foreskin off, which is a very serious threat. But she's even saying before, "Oh, you picked me because you thought I was the weakest, so I'm going to torture you like an absolute psychopath to make you regret that thought." So
as soon as he picked her, I knew. I was like, "Oh, that's the wrong move, man. That's..."
Yeah, she's going to be like the. It feels wrong even compared to Harley Quinn, but I don't know. She's I
get that.
Yeah. But and then so she's dead, and then the guy who was fighting her like gets over to like a propane tank or something, and like sort of like gets that unleashed so that there's like a stream of fire coming from it, and that sets one of the Jimmys on fire. So we actually killed two Jimmys in this like big sequence where all hell's breaking loose. The thing that I wanted to point out though, and again this is like a detail that was, because I really thought when this pregnant woman went off and like they sent Spike to run after her because we're kind of dealing with the people being on fire and shit right now.
Yeah. And
Spike's like, hey, he puts his bow and arrow down and says, "Hey, take me with you, please." And it's very clear he doesn't want to be with them. And all she sees is one of them. She just sees a Jimmy. So she punches him in the stomach. And makes her run for it and locks the gate behind her, and we never see her again. And this was because I was waiting for her to show back up like the whole rest of the movie, and she never does. And I'm like, I guess we'll see her in the third one, maybe.
But yeah, that's so I usually go to the movies alone, but me and my wife splurged for a babysitter. We had a date night, and then so one of the things we're talking about after the movie ended was like, all right, so what are all like the loose plot threads that I'm assuming will get picked up in the third one? So obviously there's the ending, which we'll get to, but this pregnant lady was like, okay, seemed like a big enough character that we'll probably follow up with her in some way in the next one. And then also, like, I'm still thinking about that baby in the village, like from the first movie. Like, I'm assuming we'll go back at some point.
I mean, I would even say specifically the baby. I would just say in general that village and his dad.
Yeah.
Like, I was like expecting Aaron Taylor Johnson to like just pop up at some point during this looking for his son, and never did.
Yeah. So this scene was like, I don't know, this kind of really, I don't want to say like upset me or whatever, but this is where I really started kind of feeling weird about Spike's character, because he seems so, like, not like an uber badass or anything at the end of the last movie, but he felt like so accomplished. I was like, Jesus, you went through like this, zombie filled land, first, with your mom, but then like by yourself, and that's not something that's like easy to do. And like, you're able to go from your village to the Bone Temple, and stuff. So to me, it was just like very surprising that, I mean, I understand why I'd be like, hey, take me with you and stuff. But then when she runs away, it's just like, this is your opportunity to also run away. Like, and I figure he has a good lay of the land. Again, he's like, it doesn't seem like the Bone Temple is super far because the other Jimmy, just went there. So it's like,
I think the justification to some extent for that is the lock on the gate, because this is like a fence with barbed wire, and she locks it behind her, so he just can't go through the gate. So he goes back with his tail between his leg, kind of begging forgiveness, and in fact he tries to lie and say that he killed her and she's in the woods, but obviously that's not going to hold up. And Jimmy Crystal immediately is like, I bet she's somewhere hard to find. And he's like, did you not think to cut off her face and bring me that as proof? Like, no, Jimmy, he didn't think to cut off a woman's face.
Yeah.
It's not a thought most people have.
Yeah. Also, it's like, I would be like, come on, it's like my second day, dude. I'm still getting the hang of this.
I'm still getting the high of being a psychopath. Give me a minute here.
But like, I don't know, like, I guess you can see it as like, there's like an idea to be made where it's like kind of like, an abusive relationship where it's like, well, it's easy to watch on the outside, but it is harder to escape, like when you're, in that like dynamic and stuff. So like, I understand that, it's easier to watch and judge or whatever, but I don't know, to me it just feels like very different to how I felt about the character, in the last one, where I was like, oh, like he felt like he's grown and he's accomplished and he can like brave this world, and then I don't know, just feels like a step back or something. But it's again, it's not like something that made me hate the movie or whatever. It's just like, kind of seems like a direction I didn't think they would go with him.
I think it is like the thing I feel about the movie as a whole, though, weirdly, is that Spike's passiveness, and again, it's not like, I get why the logic is he's too scared to physically fight back against this entire gang of psychopaths. Like, I get it. I get that he's in that predicament. But even the entire, as much as I was lukewarm on the last movie, it did have this sense of direction. Like, he had a goal, he had a purpose. He wanted to get his mum to a doctor, and it was all about, it was going to be a tough journey, but he's going to do it anyway. It's going to be full of dangers, but he's going to pull it off. So it's a heroic act. It's a relatively selfless act, and it's got momentum because there's a goal. And he doesn't really have a goal here, other than maybe just wanting to get away from this group. So he's just kind of along for this ride, and that goes along with this idea of him feeling passive rather than having something to do. And it does feel like a little bit. And I think all the Ray Fiennes stuff, well, I think it's maybe the better part of the movie in some ways. It does feel like a subplot. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like that can like substitute for like the main plot not having that sense of direction for me.
You know what it kind of is like, it feels like DLC. Like,
it does a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you beat the game, but then it's like, hey, but guess what? We got this like 90-minute like extra thing you can get, and it's like, okay, I mean, this is fine, but it doesn't. Yeah, it's not the same as like when I just had the big boss fight or whatever.
I think that's just how I was feeling. I think I realized that because I think this part where he almost like he was asking this woman to run away, I thought, oh, this is going to be where the movie kicks into gear, where it's going to become a chase, where he's running from these people, and that's going to be exciting. And then it was like, oh no, we're not doing that, and he has to go back, and we get more scenes of him just sort of like talking really like shyly and scared to Jimmy, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of over him just being like scared and not doing anything at this point. But it never really changes. Like, he just kind of keeps watching, and other things get in the way and like solve the and even the other thing I thought they were building up to, because the whole plot with Ray Fiennes is him and Samson, which we'll get to, but I thought one of the things they were doing, if the whole point of this movie is whether these two plots are eventually going to, cross paths, I thought, oh god, they're setting up Samson to want to protect Ray Fiennes so that when the Jimmies show up, I'm going to get to see Samson rip Jimmy's head out of his body. And then Samson never even meets the Jimmies. We don't even get that happen. Like, it's like, you cock tease me, movie. You cock tease me with the giant alpha dong, and then you never used the alpha dong. Anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah, there's a lot to give that, but just to kind of keep going from there. So yeah, like Jimmy's like pretty upset at Spike, and then they're kind of deciding like, oh, like we should convene with like, I should like ask Old Nick like what to do with him or whatever, and then Jimmy Inc. breaks in and it's like, we can go ask him like ourselves. And I actually thought this was a really interesting like plot development.
This was the most interesting moment between these characters to me, and this up to this point in the movie, because the way Jimmy Crystal turns with like a, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, the way he's confused by what she just said, I think is genuinely interesting, because he's being challenged in this weird way where she's like, I saw him, I saw Old Nick. And he's like, wait, what? What do you mean you saw Old Nick? Like, you could tell, like, it's like a cult leader who's been telling everyone about a big, purple boogeyman who gives all the orders, and then all of a sudden, you've made it up. You're just talking out your ass because you want to control them, and then one day one of them says, yeah, I met the purple boogeyman that you keep telling us about, and you're like, wait, what? Okay. So he's like, let's just go ask him ourselves. Let's go do that. And that becomes the goal. So that sets them on the path to go. Because basically what was happening here is, because Ray Fiennes is covered in the iodine, he's got kind of like a red kind of tone to him. He's got a bone temple surrounding him, which does look kind of satanic. And he seemed to have been, at this point, controlling a zombie. So it's like, oh, he's Satan. All right.
I mean, she pretty much, caught him dancing with Samson, which I just thought that was really funny and clever, because it's like, oh, yeah, we had all the pieces right there, but I never would have put them together, be like, oh, like, yeah, this guy looks like Satan or whatever, or all this like Satan imagery, and then the way it just kind of coincidentally lines up with the beliefs, I thought was like funny and also interesting. And then I like the Jimmy Ink's character, where like, she's taken a liking to Spike, but I think it's a bit more interesting that like she's not just like, oh, I'm just like the good kind-hearted one. It's like, oh no, like she still believes all this stuff. Like it's just that she also kind of questions like obviously Satan's real, but I don't know, like Sir Jimmy might be full of shit, like he might not be the chosen one or whatever. So I thought that made kind of like an interesting dynamic. And
she's not just a good person, because she's still killing people. She's still saying to Spike, hey, this is what we do, you're going to have to start killing people with us. But she's more sympathetic towards him and doesn't want to just bully him, which is at least a little bit interesting. It gives her more room to grow, I suppose, as well. I think, the two most interesting things about the movie, once it's like established everything, is one, her like dynamic to try and like overthrow Jimmy because she thinks he's full of shite, and secondly, Jimmy interacting with Ray Fiennes, because that's like finally like he's talking to someone who's smart enough to like really understand his bullshit and kind of question it, even though he does it very coyly, and he's not like, like he can tell that Jimmy's dangerous, so he doesn't like just confront him and like be argumentative with him or anything like that. So I think those are the most interesting elements, and there is some interesting stuff there. It does take a while to get there though, because like, by the time we get to that, we're kind of in the back half of the movie and whatnot. But I mean, that's pretty much it before they kind of merge together, other than just there is like a one morning like Spike clearly wants to like go off and warn Ray Fiennes, because they get to the point where they're seeing him through the binoculars and they're like, oh shit, I need to go warn him. And he tries to sneak away, and then one of them catches him, and then Jimmy Inc. kills the other guy, and then claims that the other guy was trying to run away, so he had to be killed, and it's all like, whatever.
I just want to say, I think it is very funny anytime, Sir Jimmy, like you were saying, when he gets challenged or kind of lets his guard down, I always find his reactions to be like pretty funny. I like when they first get to the Bone Temple, and he's like looking through the binoculars and seeing, Dr. Kelson for the first time, and he kind of has to like look a couple of times before he's like, yeah, that's him. Like you can tell, like he's calculating in his head. It's like, well, I don't think that's like obviously not the actual devil, but also like this is an opportunity where I can kind of like solidify, I guess, my power and control by convincing him that it is and having this guy work for me and stuff.
That's what Jimmy Ink recognizes though, right? When she's talking to Spike, she's like, when he looked through those binoculars, he'd never seen that guy before. Like he's talking out of his ass right now. So she's got this idea of like wanting to like take down Jimmy, even though she still kind of believes like some of the core ideas of the cult, if you will. So room to grow for sure. But this is a good point, I think, to pivot over to the other side of the plot, which has also been running throughout, which is Ralph Fiennes has been doing more tests with tranquilizing Samson the Alpha, and he and I guess the first thing up front is that Samson, well, we see him rip a head off at one point, and it's a whole thing. He seems to kind of like these tranquilize sessions, like where the second time he shows up, he's kind of like coming like slower, and Ralph Fiennes is like, okay, I'm going to trust you, Samson. Right, I'll give you this, and it basically becomes this thing where he's effectively getting Samson addicted to morphine. And he's like, hey, this is giving you a moment of peace, because we do get like one moment early on, I think it's when he's killing the guy that we see before he goes to Ralph Fiennes for the first time, where you get like almost like a POV shot from Samson, where you see what he sees, and it looks like he's fighting demons or something, like, because that's something that Ralph Fiennes brings up later. He's like, hey, like this condition that you've all got, like obviously it's biological and it's changing things, but it's also psychological. So I wonder, what do you see when you think you're killing humans? Like, what do you think you're killing something else? Because I've seen zombies attack children and babies, and there's nothing threatening about them. So what do you think you're seeing?
Good point, yeah.
And we get a glimpse of that at one point early on, and so yeah, basically we get like a montage, because he's got like a little bunker, he's got like a little wind up record player, and he's listening to music. So we get a lot of like 80s hits and stuff throughout the movie that he listens to. But yeah, we get basically this weird friendship deforms where Samson shows up, he gets some high, and then he maybe also gets high, and they dance to music. Or, well, Samson doesn't dance, he just sits there kind of looking like empty. But Ralph Fiennes just dancing in front of him, which is what Jimmy Ink sees at one point.
Yeah. And he's like a lonely guy, so I think it's like, yeah, he just likes the company, even if it is just someone he's like talking to himself. It's kind of funny, because at first I thought it was like, okay, he tranquilizes them and then kind of like seems to help him with like some wounds and takes like some arrows out and stuff. So at first I thought it was kind of like, oh, he's coming back because he knows, oh, this is a guy that like helps me and stuff. But then I kind of realized like, oh wait, well, I guess it's not so much that he's just becoming a morphine addict, which is that's interesting. But yeah, the whole thing is like he just really wants some type of sign that there's like some type of human still in there, and at one point he's just gonna, I guess, kill him.
He basically does the that scene in I Am Legend where Will Smith gets so lonely he starts begging the mannequin to say something. He basically kind of does that with Samson, where he's like, oh, if you could just like show any sign, because he gets to a point where after they've had a couple of these montages, and these montages where he's dancing to the music and like Duran Duran's playing as he's dancing in front of a zombie, I'm like, this is getting weird. Like, what are we doing? And not even in a bad way, but yeah, it's weird. But he says, look, I have to level with you, Sam. And Samson's not understanding any of this, obviously, but he's like, I need to level with you. The key ingredient to this concoction I give you is morphine. I only have about 2 weeks left at the rate you're going through it, and I've searched every medical station in like 70 miles. There's nothing else around. This is the last of it, and obviously once that's run out, you're going to be just a feral zombie again. So like, I'd love to like try and develop something. I've got some ideas about how to try and like help you further along, but we just don't have time. So he's about to inject him. He's about to kill him with something or other, and just as he's about to do that, Samson's looking up at the moon and says, moon. He just, says one word, and it's right before he's going to be killed, and Ralph Fiennes is like, what did you just say? Did you just say something? And we actually get like kind of like some backstory here to this act in a weird way, where basically what because Ray Fiennes gives him something else. So basically, we'll cut back to the Jimmy stuff, but like once Jimmy comes and talks to him, and he knows the next day the Jimmy gang are coming up, he knows that his times may be limited. So he's like, "Hey Samson, I was going to spread this out, but time's like short, so I'm just going to have to like dose you with this thing that I had planned." And it's basically something to try and help his brain to like sort of like get his humanity back. So we get this sequence where Samson is going through the train, and it's the same train that we saw in the last movie where the pregnant zombie was and all that. And he basically starts having flashbacks of when he was a child on a train being asked for a ticket. And it's all, but they kind of turn demonic and zombies attack him. And it's a really interesting moment because the zombies, clearly there's a pivot point where Samson is no longer like one of them, where they've decided that he is now like not one of them. So we get this moment where they attack Samson, the other zombies, and Samson starts ripping them to shreds. And it's a really interesting bit because Samson, well, okay, now the rage infected don't see him as a friend. They want to attack him. They see him maybe as a human in their eyes. However, he can't be infected again, right? So he's kind of like, they could rip him to shreds. I'm sure if he gets overpowered, they'll just rip him apart. But he can't be bitten and, you know, then turn back into a zombie. Because we even see earlier on, like the guy that gets killed near the farmhouse, like the zombie just spits in his face and the blood goes in his mouth and he immediately starts turning. Here, Samson gets blood, like kind of like not even spit. I think he rips like a neck or something. Like the blood sprays him in the face, and he just kind of goes like he's not even phased by it.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting because like in the original, I thought that was a big thing with like like, you know, when you get bit or get blood or whatever, like you turn and then the thing is kind of interesting, like unlike other zombie movies where it's like, yeah, you turn immediately in like, you know, 10-20 seconds or whatever. And then like, yeah, the last one, they really didn't have a lot of stuff of like people actually turning. Like usually when a character would get like overwhelmed, they would just get killed by the zombies or whatever. They didn't actually have much turning. So it was interesting when they had that scene in this one. I thought
Oh, also, just one final thing here, just to tie it to the moon thing. On the train, he's looking at a book about astronomy, and like the page he's on's about the moon. So that's why he said moon, because it was a childhood flashback for him.
Yeah, I really like this sequence where when it kind of dips like from the flashback back into reality, and like he's looking at like the person that's asking him for his ticket, and then he's just like, I don't have my ticket. But then like you realize like, oh, we're not in the flashback anymore, and there's like zombies like all over this car. I think this is a really interesting dynamic. I'm assuming we'll explore it more in the third movie, but yeah, now that he is like, you know, still has like the strength and all the stuff that comes with like being an alpha, but he, you know, is not like has that blind rage anymore. Like I don't know if he's like completely, oh no, I'm basically just like a human again, or
it'll be a slow transition. I expect. I imagine he's going to get more human throughout the third movie, would be my guess. And I think a little thing they do actually is it's a certain point, maybe I don't know if it's before or after the train sequence, but he like gets like a bit of cloth or something and like ties it around his waist, and it's I'm sorry, you disappointed by this?
I mean, like that was such a big thing with the last movie where like, we couldn't stop talking about the dong. Like everyone loved the dong. Like, oh yeah, this is like one of the great
I don't
penises.
I don't think that's the conversation we were having. I don't think.
I mean, maybe not us specifically, but a lot of people were talking about it, and then I think it was a travesty to cover
There is actually a shot where him and Ray Fiennes are just sitting next to each other, and they're both on morphine, and like his dong's just sitting there. This is such a weird visual. Like I'm just imagining what it's like being on set that day. Just I don't know, weird.
I guess this is something like, we don't really have to worry about as much anymore. But I was thinking like, oh man, if this was, people would have like gotten so mad at like, or it would have sucked if your job was to like edit this for like cable movie channel or
Oh,
whatever.
impossible. Yeah, impossible. So the point I was getting at, though, is that much in the same way that in Terminator 2, Arnold loses the sunglasses halfway through to show that he's becoming more human.
Oh.
This is the flip of that, where he cares enough to cover his dick up because he's starting to be a bit more human.
Yeah.
Not that I think he's going to care that much. I don't think he's like self-conscious or anything, but it's just this idea that he's a little bit more human, so he's putting on at least a little loincloth to be a bit modest. I don't know. I just it's a little touch. I think it's fine the way they do it. So I mean, it's an interesting development. Like, I wasn't really sure how I felt about the whole him coming to say Ray Fiennes early on. I think it develops into something more interesting. And like I said, I really thought it was going to, the satisfaction was going to be he was going to want to protect Ray Fiennes later. Not that I thought, don't get me wrong, I expected Ray Fiennes to die. I thought he was definitely a goner at the end of this movie. It just felt like he's the character you kill at the end of the second one. But I thought like Alpha Samson was going to like go on an absolute rampage on his behalf and like tear them apart. And we don't get that. We don't get that big showdown. I was hoping for more carnage, I guess, and the climax.
Yeah, that's another thing that kind of tripped me up for this is, I was expecting him to somehow be involved in the end, and then also I was kind of assuming, not to skip too far ahead or whatever, but I kind of thought that we were building up Jimmy to be like the big bad of this franchise, and that like essentially he would be coming for him or hunting him down in the next movie.
That's kind of what I was getting at when I said the first one, meaning 28 years later, started with his origin and then only introduced him properly at the end of the movie. So it felt like, this is a big deal. He's like the big character we're building to. And then he's done by the end of this movie. He's gone.
Yeah.
That felt a little bit strange to me. I thought he was going to be like the trilogy villain.
Yeah, same exact response. And I mean, I don't necessarily dislike what happens to him. Like, there is a poetic justice and everything to it, but it's like, I'm a little sad to see him go, and then especially like I mean, I guess it's hard to speculate because I really have no idea where we're gonna go with like the third one. I mean, maybe we won't even have like a big bad guy or something. Maybe it'll just be more again trying to survive or something. But it felt like they're maybe building something more up with that, but.
Yeah, it feels like there's an ending here that just kind of like all of a sudden here's the sequel bait, but it's very separate to anything we've done, which we'll get to obviously. So it's the Samson thing, just to wrap up Samson's thing, because it's kind of separate from everything else. Is it just after everything else goes down and Ray Fiennes is lying there dying, he comes up and for the second time he speaks in the movie and he says thank you. He thanks him for giving his humanity back. He just says thank you. I'm adding the extra part on. But that's what he's thanking him for. So it's like, oh, he is more coherent. He is more human again, which it does sort of really raise this weird question of, though, we've been killing infected left and right. I'm like, wait, could they all be turned back into humans? that raises some ethical questions all of a sudden.
That's something I was going to be wondering about, but then I guess, well, at least like in terms of this movie or whatever, the idea is like, well, if Dr. Kelson dies, he's the one that had the cure, so they probably won't be able to cure more people after this.
And to be fair, it's not like he took an injection and he's back to being his old self like the next day. This is he's starting to gain some humanity. It's not like he's just like he wants to go and get some fish and chips like already the next night kind of thing.
We kind of skipped over it, but one thing I thought that was interesting is like he rips off like someone's head. I'm pretty sure it's Samson, right? That it's not another infected that like starts eating.
It's just we never really see any. The only other zombies we really see in this movie are ones that run out and get killed immediately. Like he's the only one with any real screen time.
Yeah, but I could be wrong, but I thought like we never really see like the infected like actually eating people, right? Because when you like bite someone or scratch them or whatever, like they turn pretty fast. So like I don't know, like I always got the sense like these weren't zombies that were like, oh, like we want to eat human flesh or whatever.
Well, I mean, technically I don't know how canon it is, but technically in the second one, 28 weeks later, they did say that the reason why they all died out is because they got hungry because of the food supply went away. So that definitely implied that they were eating people. It's just that they turn so quick that they like. Because I think maybe part of this is that he rips out the heads and with a spine, which means they can't turn. So it's
So
like
you can just eat it.
it's more efficient. I guess I kind of like the detail that he was eating the brain, because it's a classic zombie trope. Zombies eating brains. Like he throws the body to the others and they eat that, but he's like just scooping out the brain, like he's having some ice cream or something. So
yeah, I mean, it was a cool scene, and then like and I'm not against it. I just thought it was interesting because I was like, oh, like I don't think we've really seen people actually eating before in the other movies. Maybe there's like scenes I'm forgetting, but
I think the implication is that they do eat people. It's always been the implication. We've just not seen it as explicitly as this before.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, back to the Jimmies. Main Jimmy Crystal comes over to talk to Ray Fiennes, and they build it up. He's walking through the bones and all that, and he gets to him, and he's kind of cordial at first, as he is, and because it's not until the very end of it where he's like, hey, we're in a bit of a bind because I told my followers, they all think you're Satan, blah blah blah, and which means you're in a bit of a bind because if you don't help me, I'm going to gut you like a fish. And he's like, all right, well, I guess we're in a bind then. But there's a lot of build up before then where he's like he gets him talking about his father, that his father was a vicar, and kind of who he is. Like this felt like it felt like the craziest person in the movie meeting, and I guess I know this is like a weird sounding thing to say because he's built a bone temple in the way that he's living his life. He's dancing with zombies, but Ray Fiennes in this movie feels like the most intelligent man that we've met in this world. Like he feels like a really down to earth guy who's very practical and knows his shit. So it felt like a big deal to see this cult leader asshole talking to this man and like just feeling the sense of gravity of like Ray Fiennes understands that this guy's kind of unhinged and he's been very delicate with how he's responding to him and so on. So I thought that was like an interesting conversation at the very least.
Yeah, I actually really liked how it played out, and like I don't know, like it kind of feels like at the end of the day, like maybe these people really just needed like community or something, because like they feel very like they seem the most normal once they're like sitting down and just having like a conversation, and it's like, oh, like I don't know, maybe things would be different if they weren't like like alone or whatever. I mean, like Jimmy obviously has the Jimmys, but I mean, who knows like how long it was before he had like that family or whatever. But I don't know, I agree. I thought it was interesting the way it played out, and then I think it's funny at the end where it's like, okay, yeah, like basically we have to like make some type of deal or something, and then what I assumed they were gonna go with is that it's like, okay, so the next time he meets like the other Jimmys, he's gonna have to pretend to be Satan, and he's gonna be like really bad at it and flustered and not know what to say, or it's gonna be like awkward. Maybe there'll be like some comedy, but instead he puts on like maybe the greatest performance like ever.
So just to be clear here, the deal is that Jimmy's saying, hey, you need to pretend to be what I say you are. You need to be old Nick, you need to be Satan, like you need to do this. And he's like, okay, I guess I'm doing this then. So obviously he's like, I'll come back with them tomorrow. So Jimmy goes back and says, hey, tomorrow old Nick will grant you an audience, but you will not speak to him, only I speak to him, blah blah blah. And clearly he's told him what to say, what he wants his commandments to be. But we get a montage of Ray Fiennes setting up this thing where he lights a bunch of candles. He even has like a big ring of fire that he's like set up. So he really goes all out. He gets Iron Maiden playing. Like and in a weird way that kind of works because all these characters are young enough that they probably don't know Iron Maiden. So when they start hearing like this Number of the Beast stuff,
I mean, I would assume in general, like there's probably not many places that have like electricity and stuff. Like I guess he has some type of generator that he can still play like music and whatever, and he has like records and a player.
Yeah. Well, he uses a generator at the end. You see him fill it up, but most of the time he's been winding it up. It's become a wind up record player. Yeah. You see that early on.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's I can probably assume that these younger kids like basically grew up in a world with like no electronics or like very limited use to it. So yeah, like you said, they probably don't know like much music or anything.
Yeah, so they're hearing this Number of the Beast and all that, and the fire's going on, and you can almost tell that Jimmy Crystal's kind of impressed. He's like, oh, he's really put put some effort into this. Like, he's going all out, and he's doing this dance in front of them, and then he stands there all ominous, and they're all like, so we never mentioned this earlier, but the Jimmies had put on masks when they were doing the killing earlier, and they all put their masks on, so he can't see Spike, right? So Spike's standing there, but you can't see him because he's wearing a mask. Until suddenly he kind of just can see his eyes, and he can tell that it's Spike through the mask, and that's kind of what changes. Because basically he just sticks to the script. He says what Jimmy wants him to say, which is, hey, I've got 3 commandments, and it's like, oh, continue your wrath of destruction through my land of hell, blah, 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 blah. Always follow Jimmy's orders, don't question them. And Jimmy keeps kind of interjecting and adding on, yes, your will is mine, never even hesitate to follow what I say. And then whatever. And when he realizes it's Spike, and he like sees his face, he's like, oh, wait a minute, I've got one more commandment. And you can just see Jimmy be like, no, I think that was it. You have to follow my orders, keep doing what we're doing, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that was all of them. Yeah, that's all, Saint Nick, or Old Nick, that's Saint Nick. Saint Nick's Santa. And he's like, no, I've got one more. You know how Christ, you know, Son of God, right? Your counterpart, Jimmy, since you're the son of me, and I'm Satan, he was crucified, and that's how, like, he inspired everyone. So I'm going to need that for you as well. And he's like, you want me to be crucified? And I probably my favorite thing in the whole movie is the camera looking over at Jimmy Ink, who's like got a smirk in her face, like she's like, oh yeah. I'll crucify him. Oh, I'm ready for this. Like, she's loving the turn this is taking. She's like, yeah, let's crucify him.
I really liked all this stuff. Like, his very like over the top production, and I kind of got the sense that like he was having fun with it too. Like, again, he probably spent like a lot of the last 28 years like by himself and just kind of doing his Bone Temple thing. So it kind of seemed like he, like, as much as he's, you know, put in an awful position, like I kind of felt like maybe he was into like the theatrics. And then it was kind of funny too, like for a while, like feels like a heavy metal concert or something. Like the kids like kind of are dancing around almost like they're like moshing or something. And then like you're saying before with Jimmy, he has these really good reactions where at first he's kind of like, oh, like, wow, what are you doing? And then it kind of seems like he's like, oh yeah, you're going for it. And he's kind of getting into it too. And then, like, I'm not sure like how much, Jimmy had told him before, if he was just kind of like, listen, basically when we talk, I'll give the commandments and you have to like, kind of just agree with what I say. Like, I don't know if he knew like the full scope of like how insane he is, because you can see once he gets to that commandments part that Rafe is like starting to like feel much more hesitant.
Oh yeah, because there's a specific moment actually when he says like, you continue what you're doing, and he just sort of say that's clearly all he's been told to say, and then Jimmy steps in and says, yes, we'll keep killing and like, you know, pillaging and mutilating people, and you can sort of see Rafe Fiennes be like, wait, that's what I'm telling them that we do? I don't know if I'm on board with that as much, but yeah, you can sort of see that he didn't give him the full scope of what they go around doing until he says it in front of him, and he's like, oh, maybe I feel like I'm second guessing, like convincing these young people to follow this guy's orders because he's insane.
Yeah, because ultimately he's a good character, but like it's understandable that he he doesn't want to die. He wants to save his own skin, so he's just like going along with this guy. But yeah, I think it's a really good moment once he realizes that, one of those kids is Spike, and then you see he's like, it kind of hits him, and he gets like this moment of, conscience. He's like, I can't do this. Like, this guy is too dangerous. Like, I can't let him out in the world. And then, when he starts like being like, I need a sacrifice, like, let's crucify like, hey, you said you're my son, right? Like, and then God sacrificed his son, so I think it all plays out really nice.
Yeah, and Jimmy, of course, just quickly stabs him and starts yelling at the others to not follow what he's saying, and then says, hey, Jimmy Ink was ready to do that. Jimmy Ink wanted to crucify me, get her. So the entire group of what left of him is like falling apart, but so but,
I think, doesn't one even say something like, I have no idea what's going on right now, or something like
that. But Jimmy Ink's actually quite a good fighter, so she's fighting them off and all the rest of it. And it's notable once it all kind of breaks down, and it's actually Spike who stabs the main Jimmy, like sort of sneakily gets him in the middle of all the chaos. Spike says to Ray Fiennes as he's lying there dying, like, hey, you didn't have to do that. Like, we were about to leave. You could let us go. And he's like, no, I couldn't do that. Like, so, it pays off kind of their friendship from the last movie and, all the rest of it. And as they're walking away, and it is just Spike and Jimmy Inc., like, she's like, hey, you said your name's Spike, right? And she's like, okay, I think it was Kelly, but I mean, if I'm wrong, it doesn't really matter, whatever the name is.
Yeah.
And she takes off the block, because they're all wearing wigs. Other than Jimmy Crystal, they're all just wearing wigs. And she takes off her wig and they walk off. And that's kind of the end of the main plot of the movie. Obviously, it does go to another little segment, and it's maybe the most predictable thing that it's going to do in like the history of cinema, but there you go.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to forget that, like, yeah, we actually do see, I think, Kelly says something like, what did she say? Like, she's like, oh, like, there was one last commandment I want to do or whatever, and then they show...
Oh, yeah, I'm going to honor the last commandment regardless, and they crucify him to the upside-down cross, so Jimmy's left there. He's still alive, actually, when Samson shows up to say his goodbyes, and he walks off carrying Ray Fiennes, but I thought, just rip his head off. Come on, Samson.
Right, yeah.
Right? I thought it was going to be like a big save the day moment where he comes in and starts causing chaos to, like, maybe not save Ray Fiennes, but try to save Ray Fiennes, but inadvertently save Spike or something. But I thought, at least give me the head ripping off after the fact, you big brute. Come on.
Yeah, or like one thing I was thinking of is like once the confusion kind of starts and Jimmy's like, oh, he's not really like old Nick or whatever. Then I thought maybe Central will come out and they'll see that he has kind of like control over him or something, and then that'll make them believe him versus Jimmy. Which, like, even if he had survived, like, you would think like the other Jimmys would be like, well, hey, wait a minute, like, why did you make us believe that he was old Nick, and then once he like started to turn on you, then you changed your mind or whatever? Like, probably like the group wouldn't, even if he survived, would not have been in the best of places.
Yeah.
But then we do get one last like shot of him though, like because he's like kind of like when he's crucified, he's crying, saying like, oh, I can't hear him anymore, and then we kind of get like one quick kind of jump scare almost where like an infected comes, so they presumably are all like feasting on him while he's upside down.
Yeah, and then we get Custard Black. It fades to a farmhouse looking location, and I think most people probably know what's about to happen or what we're about to see, because it looks kind of similar to the location at the end of the original 28 Days Later. And you hear the Irish accent, and this is Cillian Murphy's character from the first movie teaching his daughter history and talking about how World War II happened because of what happened after World War One, and just basically getting some stuff. So he's making a point of teaching her stuff, and it's like, okay, I get that they were going to do this. I feel like they were always going to build up to doing like the return of his character. I'm a little indifferent to it. It feels a little bit like, okay, this is the big nostalgia thing we can do, and he's been producing these movies, so he was always going to have a hand in them somewhere. I get it, but I don't know. I wasn't like that excited by it.
Right. Yeah. I remember hearing that he was signed on for the third one, so I wasn't sure if the character's gonna like intertwine, or if he was gonna be the main focus, or just like a little person they run into or whatever. But yeah, I didn't really have any clue that they were gonna actually have him at the end of this movie. Like you said, once you see the like farm and stuff, it's recognizable. But I didn't know like, oh, that's where we're going. Like I wonder if they're kind of like, oh yeah, like the last one we had like a little bit of a cliffhanger, so we got to like set something up here. But yeah.
And there's not really that much direction to it. It's just that they hear some noises, they go outside, and they see off in the distance what looks like Spike and Kelly running from infected, and they're like, hey, are we going to help them, Dad? And he's like, of course we are. And then, they run off camera, cut to black. And so there's not a whole lot of... It does feel very tacked on to me. And to be fair, the Jimmy stuff at the end of the last one kind of did as well. Because I think we said in the review of the last one that the movie could have just ended with Spike walking down the road, fade to black, like he's off on his journey. And we could have started this movie with like him encountering the Jimmys. But they wanted the cliffhanger. They wanted to do this. They wanted to have the big crowd pleasing, oh, Cillian Murphy's back. Everyone, cheer. But it does just kind of feel like tacked on, especially in this case where it kind of feels like I'm not even sure what the direction is, other than okay, they're going to meet Kelly and Murphy's character, but like okay, that doesn't really give me much sense of excitement because I don't really know what the direction or plot's going to be for the next one. And given that my biggest critique of this one is that Spike didn't really feel like he had much direction in the story, I'm actually like, I don't know, if anything, this just kind of doubles down on the okay, what are we even doing next time? I'm sure they've got something planned. I'm sure Alex Garland's got something up his sleeve. But right now, it just kind of feels like we're just supposed to be excited that he's meeting Kelly and Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, unless it's like Bruce Campbell and Evil Dead, like there's not really a lot of like horror characters where I'm like, oh man, they're bringing this person back or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's again, I'm sure once we're closer to the next one and we start hearing some plot details or trailers or whatever, maybe we'll be like, oh, okay, that's where they're going with it. But yeah, I can't say I was necessarily like, like freaking out over the end of this. Yeah, this is like much more normal. Like at least the last one, like the ending was so bizarre and like totally different than anything else in the movie that like I couldn't stop thinking about it, and that was like such like a big topic of conversation. This is just kind of like, oh yeah.
This felt like Kelly and Murphy will return in Avengers Doomsday energy.
Right.
That's what this was. It was like, hey, he's going to be in the next one, be excited, especially since this one's coming out in January and is not doing that well financially, but please let us make our last one.
I feel what do I know about publicity, media, and stuff like, but it seems like they're really shooting themselves in the foot with this one, because I feel like the last one did really well and had like a lot of buzz and stuff, and then like I don't know if they're just trying to get this one like out while I don't know, it was still fresh in people's mind, but like doesn't it seem kind of weird to just dump this in the middle of January, and then I feel like there hasn't been like a ton of like, I don't know, like buzz or marketing stuff about it. Like, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe other people have been seeing more stuff or whatever. But yeah, considering I thought the last one did pretty well, I thought they would have maybe, beefed this up a bit. And instead, it just kind of feels like they're dumping it,
Yeah, the first one did 30 million its opening weekend. This one did 13. So it's less than half of what the last one made opening weekend.
Oh, yeah.
The last one got to 151 million worldwide, and this one, admittedly, it's only been like 4 or 5 days, but it's only at like 32, so like it's not even going to sniff 100, I don't think.
Yeah.
It'll maybe get to 50, and that's about it. Now, admittedly, it's not a huge budget movie, so it's not like it necessarily needs to get to a huge number or anything, but yeah, it does feel a bit weird how it's kind of just been put out there. It doesn't really feel like it's been marketed as much, and then January is also kind of a dumping ground.
Sorry, like it's not like it's like oh man, this is a stinker, we just gotta like rush it out or whatever, but like because like it seems like it got like a fairly positive reactions and like some good critic reviews and stuff.
If anything, it seems to have reviewed a bit better than the last one did.
Yeah.
so
I don't know, just bizarre.
Yeah, very, very strange. So yeah, I don't mean to be too cynical about the ending. I don't think the ending does anything wrong. It just kind of feels like this tacked on thing to tease the next one, as opposed to feeling like it really belongs at the end of this. Like it only works in the meta sense that everyone will be happy to see the character from the original movie. And I don't think I think he's obviously solid in that movie, but I don't think the character is the big thing that makes 28 Days Later what it is, like for people who love it, right?
Yeah, it does feel like this easily could have been like an after credit scene or something.
Yeah, which is exactly why it feels like a Marvel scene, right? It feels like, and everyone's been making fun of those teaser trailers, and it's become a joke to just say, so and so will return in Avengers Doomsday, because they've just been pumping those things out, and it just that's the energy I got from this final sequence, because there wasn't really a sense of direction other than just, oh, they're going to meet in this setting, but we know the setting, we know these characters already. So yeah, just a bit of a weird a cheap pop, if you will, but that's how the movie ends. All right, Tim, what are you rating 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple out of 10?
Yeah, I had a really fun time. It's not perfect. I again, like, there's some stuff that I thought was kind of weird with like Spike's story, and maybe it felt like a bit unfocused, but the things I still appreciate is like I just like being in this world, exploring it. I think, they're doing some more new interesting stuff, like with the zombies, and then there's lots of good performances, and the Jimmies were very compelling villains. So even though I guess I saw a bit more flaws in this versus the last one, I still had a really good time. I think maybe I'll go with just a. I'll go as high as an 8 actually. Yeah, I still liked it a lot, even though it's not perfect. I do think the last one was better, but I mean, maybe I just like this world or these characters or whatever. But it still really worked for me. And as much as I'm kind of like, okay, so where exactly are we gonna go with like the next movie? I am excited for it. At the very least, I'll be intrigued to, see what they're gonna do with it. I don't know if we really mentioned but yeah, like, so I guess the unresolved plot stuff that they could bring up is like, the pregnant woman that ran away, the village and Spike's dad, the baby that he left there, and then obviously them running into Cillian Murphy's character. And Samson, of course. So there's a lot of kind of dangling stuff. I don't know if they're going to, incorporate everything. Like, I guess technically, the pregnant woman you don't really have to go back to, but she felt big enough that it seemed kind of weird if she's not brought up or whatever.
It's interesting how they're also separate though. Like, these are all dangling things that aren't really that connected to each other. So curious to see if they actually do all of them or if maybe they just leave some of them behind. But for me, I think. I don't know. I gave the movie last year a 6 because I was not, I was, like I say, I was very lukewarm. Like, there was obviously things that I think were good about it. And what's so funny about this one is that I think there's things that are better about it, but things that are worse about it. So the things that are worse is the lack of direction and the momentum in the plot. Like, it felt lackadaisical, and there wasn't and Spike being so passive and not really having this sense of being a protagonist and actually, propelling things forward. That, I think, is objectively worse in this movie. I think some of the situations that kind of arise later on, which is the conflict between Jimmy Crystal and Ray Fiennes' character, the idea that one of Jimmy's group, Jimmy Inc., wants to overthrow him, or even just this idea of his surprise when she says, "Hey, I saw the real old Nick. He's over there," and how he even tries to process that he's just heard that. I think those things are arguably the most interesting moments of either both films. So I think I find myself thinking that some of the ideas in this are more interesting than the ideas in the last one, which was very typical. Just, it's 28 years later and the UK is still a zombie apocalypse and we're going through kind of the obvious kind of path that would maybe lead us to. This one was lacking in sort of structure and momentum, but had more interesting ideas. I think I'll actually rate this one slightly higher and say 6.5.
Interesting.
I think that's what feels right to me. What the hell are we going to call the third one? / fifth one?
Great question. I don't know. The farm? I don't know.
Because I assume it's going to be 28 years later, something. Mm-hmm. And hell, maybe they'll even put this one out until 2030, because then that'll actually be 28 years later from 28 days later.
Oh, okay. It's not bad.
Although 4 years does seem like a long wait for a movie like this, of this size and scale. But also, I'll be in my 40s and I hate that, so I don't want to think about that. That's the Bone Temple. Next time on Streams After Midnight, we will be doing a film from last year. We're still doing a lot of 2025 catch up, and next week we'll be doing Presence, the Steven Soderbergh movie. So join us for that next time. And of course, you can support Streams After Midnight via Patreon or YouTube membership, get access to the bonus episodes, which, there's 65 of those now, and some of them are kind of weird movies, some of them are silly movies, some of them are just a little bit more obscure. But if that sounds like fun, you also get access to the Even More Stream segments, where, as Tim mentioned earlier, we did a big preview of the year, which was a very long Even More Streams. Typically, they're a bit more shorter than a regular episode. They'll be 20, 30 minutes of discussion. That was like a 2.5 hour beast though. So if you want to check out that and just in general help support and help keep the show coming, you can do that via Patreon or YouTube membership. So thanks to everyone who already does. It is greatly appreciated. But that is the show. That is Screams After Midnight. So thank you very much for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies, and we will see you next time.